Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pivot Point podcast, where we bring together business leaders, innovators, and industry thinkers for candid conversations about the shifts that are redefining how organizations are operating, competing, and growing. I'm your host, Alok Ramsisaria, CEO of Grizzy Interactive. Today, we are talking about a shift that could fundamentally change the way companies generate revenue. For decades, sales technology has been designed around one basic idea: give salespeople better tools, better data, and better automation, and they will sell more effectively. But Agentic AI challenges that model. We are now entering a world where AI may not just support the revenue organization, but actively participate in it. In fact, LinkedIn is full of um, people claiming that the 100 million solopreneur organization exists or is around the corner. So, what does the new age go to market organization look like when AI can execute? Where should businesses draw the line between man and machine, or rather human and machine? And how do leaders embrace this opportunity without losing sight of governance, economics, and measurable business outcomes? To explore these questions, I'm joined today by Tim Cortinovis, an author, entrepreneur, and globally recognized leader specializing in AI and agentic AI in sales. Tim has been recognized as a top 10 thought leader in agentic AI and sales by Thinkers 360, with Forbes calling him a tech visionary. He advises CEOs and sales leaders on transforming their organizations with generative AI agents, and autonomous growth systems. A very accomplished author with 6 business books to his credit, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to the Pivot Point, Tim.
Thank you so much, Alok, for having me and for your kind words in the introduction. It is great to be on the show with you. Thank you.
Excellent. So, before we look ahead, I'd like to start how we got here, right? So, for nearly 30 years, sales technology, as I mentioned, has evolved around humans. Humans sell, software supports them. Do you believe that agentic AI challenges that assumption? And are we now entering an area where AI starts doing the work itself than simply assisting humans do it faster?
I really think that AI is now taking over a lot of tasks we beforehand had to do manually. And wherever we have repetitive tasks, the better the AI performs. And we see clearly a shift from tools that do something for us using them to an assistant that works with us and for us. So I see clear co-creation in sales. And let's put it like this. I think in all areas where you're not directly talking to the customer, AI will definitely take over tasks. And yeah, that has some implications. And I'm more than happy to talk today with you about these implications and how we can design and how we as leaders in businesses in sales can design our operating systems so that we can actually leverage this opportunity that comes with agentic AI.
Great. So, one of the terms that I saw, and you talk about it often, is this: don't, not necessarily looking at AI or agentic AI, but look at an autonomous revenue system rather than just tools or assistants, and which sounds very attractive, especially if, as a CEO myself, something which generates revenue on its own without requiring constant nip tuck monitor. It just sounds very exciting, right? But in practice, which part of the revenue life cycle are most ready to transition to autonomous mode?
We are not there yet, having a fully 100% autonomous revenue system, but we are very good on our way towards it. And right now we see that we can put on autonomous engine, all the research of leads, all the lead generation part, and what is more important, all the market triggers. So where we beforehand did the research manually and had to rely on our guts as salespeople on which lead to work with and to qualify more. There now the AI can do the qualification and it gets the triggers, for instance, much better. So everything around this, and this is really, really important. We are not only talking about autonomous revenue systems because it makes our life easier, but I am deeply convinced that in our fast changing world and in this, yeah, ever almost every morning feels different than the day before, and you have situations unexpected and never seen before, and you have to react very, very fast as a business leader and in sales also. And there, the AI can help you to stay in your business and to detect what is changing in your market, where is market demand heading towards, and what triggers are there. And so you can adapt in sales really quick to changing demands, to changing expectations from your customers. And I think this is one of the crucial assets you need right now as a business. And so in everything that comes related to research, to market intelligence, AI is really, really good, and agents are even better because they can react, they can provide you with information accurate on the point. And just for instance, a very small example, but meeting preparation. Meeting preparation devours a lot of working hours in your sales teams, and an agent can do this easily for you. For instance, in my business, I prepare for every meeting appointment in my calendar, and there's an agent that detects new appointments, and then it researches all the background of the meeting attendees, and it tells me where they're standing right now, where I, as an expert in that case, can provide value to them, and which arguments to pull out during the conversation, during the meeting. And so I'm instantly prepared to the meeting just 5 minutes prior to it and looking into that direction. I've also an agent that prepares me for my day and that summarizes all my meetings throughout the day and tells me where to focus on and so on. But this is really, really important there. It not just summarizes things, but it actually detects where they have the problems and where they're standing right now. For me as a human to do this manually, it would take hours.
Yeah, yeah. Take a lot of effort. I agree, and even if you had an executive assistant, that person would be hard pressed to do it just right the way you want it to. So I can see the value that, hey, you suddenly gotten value that you would never have thought about, which would have not just taken work away from you, but it's also increased the quality of the prep for and the quality of your planning of your day, because the agent is telling you, hey, focus on these 5 things. Usually my EA tells me, okay, here are the 10 meetings on your calendar, and that's where it stops, right?
Yeah,
So
so
much.
true. It's like having an executive assistant for every sales rep. So every sales rep now has a personal executive assistant, and it can plan the day, it can focus, it can research information, and make obvious what is important to you. And there's another agent really important as well that summarizes the day afterwards and taking into account all newsletters, all clients' emails, and it tells me where's actually where are the most important points in my day, and so I can prepare better for the next day and focus on the hottest leads and focus on the things that drive the needle in my business.
That's very impressive. How are there specific tools that you're using for this, or is there a list that somebody can access? After this podcast is over, we can give away that.
With make.com, a simple automation platform without coding. It's really, really easy. But now with Claude, you can do it with Claude just as the only tool, as you can connect Claude to your calendar and to your emails, and that's it. And you're done. And you have scheduled tasks in Claude, and you just can tell Claude, please run a daily scheduled tasks in the morning at 8 o'clock, let's say, and prepare me for the meetings of the day and everything, and another task at the end of the day to summarize my emails. And this is really handy as well. What I do there is, for instance, sometimes I ask Claude, please take a look at my emails from the last 7 days and tell me
Miss-
um, if I've overlooked something and I have not follow up with an opportunity, or if there's some open end I have not seen and where I have some tasks in it. So
Yeah, I think this is great. But as we and I think we'll get deeper into this, but I just want to segue because we work with um I would say four different geographies extensively, five if you count Israel to some degree. Our largest footprint is North America. Um, the second one that is emerging is Singapore, and the third one is ANZ, Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, maybe, and India itself, right? And all markets have very different nuances, different requirements. I remember when I was directly involved in doing sales, my Indian customers would expect me that I would fly down to meet them, you know, 2 to 3 times before they close the deal. Whereas my US customers would just go on reference, say, okay, I'll give you a pilot or I'll give you a POC and let's see what happens after that. And I was not traveling to the US for every one deal. So very different cultural nuances with every market. And Europe is slightly closer to what ANZ is. ANZ is very relationship driven. So do you see these autonomous systems working differently across markets, or do you see that the same, it's just a nuance in the communication layer, if you will, but the rest of the data prep and your organization, that works the same? But because, for example, there's also regulatory issues like GDPR, but or can spam in the US is slightly different. Canada has a different law. Australia has a different law. Um, so, do you see your agents also? And when you're talking autonomous, I'm not just talking about meeting prep and supporting you, but I'm saying if it's autonomous, um, how do you train your AI, or do you have to? What do you do differently?
it's really complex, as you put it, and I see the differences between markets, of course.
Mm-hmm.
With the US, let's say at the forefront of automation, the openness to automated processes is slightly higher than in Europe or NZ or in Asia, in Singapore or India, and but there's more to it. Sometimes it's also a question of the age of your customer, and we see clearly that in Europe and in Asia, the younger your customers, the more likely they are to accept or to expect even really autonomous systems. So the impatience and the need for speed gets much higher the younger your customers are. Let's say from until the age of 30 or below the age of 30, we see a lot of demand of autonomous systems, of self-service, of they value faster answers more than a human connection. And I think this is valid through all markets you mentioned, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And but then, of course, AI is here to help us, and we see this clearly in the European and in the, I would say, in the Indian market and in the Near East as well, in the Near East region, that AI helps us taking over the manual parts in research and in the administrative parts for the CRM system and everything, to have more time, to free more time for your personal connection to the customer. As you said, there are still a lot of customers expecting you to be there in person when it comes to larger deals. No doubt about it. And I think AI is here to help us, and because there's what we as humans thrive still. We can build trust, sometimes better than the AI, and judgment. And it's a question of common sense sometimes. AI is lacking common sense. It is very good at combining things, at finding structures, but sometimes it is not good at common sense. Sometimes, yes, it is developing very, very fast, but sometimes it just needs common sense. And for us to negotiate a larger deal, the human judgment is important. So AI is there to prepare us for this, to give us some arguments for the negotiation and so on. But we have to do this as humans. And so there it is less autonomy and more humans needed. But in general, and if we talk about autonomous revenue systems, I don't say that they are applicable to every industry. There are certain industries where you have a high degree of regulation, for instance,
Mhm.
or where you especially need laws like DPDP or GDPR in the EU and similar laws in California, and where you have to be careful and where you have to put more human in the loop. But then there are other industries, of course, commodity goods, and the less complex products are and services are, the more, as I said, the more our customers expect self-service systems, and the more you're able to generate leads and demand totally on autopilot, and also to execute the deals. So we have to take a sharp look in which industry we are and which parts of the business we are going to automate. That's totally clear. And we've, of course, be very aware of the limitations. But I think we will take a look there a little bit later.
Cool. So, apart from geography, you said the demographics of your audience and the industry and the regulated nature of industry are important parameters to look at when we are setting up autonomous systems. But do you think, uh, I mean, one of the things that we worry about, for example, in any organization is, hey, did somebody upload a customer confidential document into their private chat GPT account or their private Claude account rather than using the company account? And, you start, that's like a basic prevention that we do. But in terms of sales and revenue, I think the bigger challenge earlier used to be, hey, are your deals leaking out? As an example, because now AI gives you another route. If so, how do you establish guardrails? And this is gross issues. Then there are subtle issues, right? For example, is it the right tone of voice in which to, let's say, we use the system to draft our RFP responses, okay? Or so, is there any kind of system-wide setups that you recommend? There was this famous case, and I'm going to digress. There's this famous case in the Supreme Court of India where the lawyer drafted a response and using AI, and the AI made up case law which didn't exist, right? And I'm sure that's true worldwide, where lawyers have not employed guardrails, and now the Supreme Court has sort of put a tight lid on it that you can't use. If you produce it, then we are going to censor the lawyer. Now you can't stop it. I'm sure there will be certified or controlled AI that will help lawyers draft briefs and arguments and submissions and depositions. But in our world of sales and GTM, what do you see as the basics? Maybe this is too short to give an exhaustive list, but some of the basic guardrails that every organization should put in place so that we can at least scale the agentic GTM without runaway unnecessary cost for one. And I think there's also the runaway AI cost, the token maxing that you hear about. And I'm sure everyone has experienced it whenever they were not careful, right? So, what do you recommend as a basic set of safeguards that people should put in place? I know, I mean, we've built governance systems which are pretty extensive, but if I am I'm looking to start exploring agentic AI and autonomous revenue systems, what would you recommend given your extensive experience? What basic safeguards, and then we can talk about maybe slightly more advanced safeguards that we should have in place.
Yeah, it's a very important point, I think, and a very good question. First of all, I would recommend thinking of AI agents as another employee, not in the term that we are talking about full-time employees with the same capabilities, but you have there an entity, and this entity, just as a new employee, a human employee, need to needs to know what am I allowed to do, what am I supposed to do, and what I'm not allowed to do. And so start with putting these as examples, for instance, in the system prompt for the agent. So tell it what you're expecting as an outcome of it, and be very precise and very clear and very niche. And Gartner stated that by the end of next year, around 40% of all agentic projects will stall and fail. And one of the reasons why this is so is because a lot of companies, a lot of enterprises expect too much outcome from one single agent. And so be very clear and have a very specific outcome you expect from one agent. So put one agent for one single use case, and for the other use case, put another agent. So you can, if something goes wrong, you can more easily detect where the problems are. So tell it in the systems prompt what you expect. And tell it also what not to do. For instance, of course, you can tell it don't make up cases at the court, would be one example. Sometimes it is so easy, but of course you can't think of everything it should not do, but try to be very specific there. And we have to be aware that hallucinations come from the AI not having enough data or bad data. So it is also a very good idea to be sure that your AI has the actual data. So when you're asking it for cases, for instance, as a lawyer, be sure that there are cases, or tell it if you don't find cases, just tell me you couldn't find cases. And that helps a lot, and that will improve the results nearly 100%. You've talked about costs. Costs are really of a matter today, and although token costs are decreasing, the usage of tokens is increasing dramatically. And of course, we use more and more AI, and so our builds are getting larger and larger and larger. And so we have to put measures also in place to decrease tokens, because there would be, why I'm talking about this, one technical measure to avoid hallucinations would be to put chains of AIs in place. So giving the result of the first LLM, let's say OpenAI's ChatGPT, to Claude and ask Claude for feedback, and give this feedback again to ChatGPT. This also reduces hallucinations, or if you mingle DeepSeek and Manus and maybe an Indian or a European model also, you could reduce hallucination nearly down to zero. But as a technical solution, therefore, you had to spend a lot of tokens. And maybe in some cases where accuracy is really, really important, you might think of doing so. But normally, it is too expensive, I would say. And so you have to put other guardrails in place, as I said, with a systems prompt. And to double check, you can also ask the AI to double check results and to explain it. And here we come to the next point. We have to build it for explainability. So a lot of companies right now are building black boxes, and this erodes trust totally. Trust from your teams, from the inside, and also trust from your customers. If you can't explain why an AI makes a solution or a recommendation, this is really bad for the trust. So build the agent around explainability. So you can later have an idea where a certain answer comes from, or and what is driving it. So this is really important. And then the last point here is, of course, you have to measure the outcome and define the outcome. What do you expect? And prove the outcome. If it is what you've expected, you can keep it running. If it isn't, you have to go back and iterate and change it a little bit.
Mhm. I think there's some gold in these thoughts. I think the using agents to different LLMs to check each other, putting in the system prompt itself. They tell me no if you can't find anything. This is, I think, basics. And if we just do these basics, while we might incur token costs, but I think you save a lot of downstream costs if you are providing the wrong data, right? And grounding your data in your own data. That usually, as you mentioned, having the case study there is really what is needed, even if you're generating a RFP response, putting together a proposal, all of that good stuff. So thank you very much. I think, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I would like to add something more.
Sure.
As I observe it, of our human colleagues, we don't expect 100% accuracy. So we as humans tend to make errors. And we see this discussion also in AVs and autonomous vehicles. And if the autonomous vehicle is having, let's say, 40% less errors and less fatalities in traffic, it is a very good number. And in my personal opinion, yes, I know in an RFP it is really important to be accurate, but we should not expect more accuracy always from our autonomous system than we do from our human co-workers. Sometimes, yes, of course, it is. It is an autonomous system, and there are certain industries where you can't use it that way. But I think it is a good idea to sometimes think about if we really need that 100% accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Great point. Thank you. Let me segue again a little bit and talk about when should we not use AI, right? One, currently we look at AI as this tool that we should deploy everywhere. Where do you, and I think you hinted at the answer earlier, but in detail, I mean, is there guidance on, okay, if these conditions are true, then you probably should consider higher human intervention, or you know much lower. For example, some of the backend tasks that you said, I think those are common, but uh, are there specific industries, products, segments, or sales motions where the human led engagement is going to be key? And I think you hinted at that, but I just want to sort of get your consolidated opinion on that.
A valid question, of course. The financial industry, of course, we see, yeah, it is curious because the financial industry is one of the most automated industries in the world. And around, I think, 95% of all financial interactions globally are done by autonomous bots. So that said, but although in the client's interaction, I think in the financial industry and wealth management, for instance, it is really important to have human interaction and to have this human common sense and judgment into it. And of course, in all industries where you need advisory and where you need uh, connections between different areas, where you need some kind of creativity in the sense that you connect ends that are not obviously connected. So where you need a lot of creativity to solve problems. AI is good to do structured work, but not so good in finding creative solutions. There, sometimes, yes, you might be lucky and you get an idea, and if you ask the AI for creative solutions for a problem, but sometimes not. And we as humans are really good in finding connections where they're not when they're not obvious. So in all that cases, humans are really important. And of course, and we talk about autonomous revenue systems. And then the question is, how do we have to redesign our work to adapt to these systems? Let's go back in time, say some 150 years, when we started when Ford as the first company started to do work with the conveyor belt, and that changed the way we work. We produced things, and this revolutionized the world of production. And this happened because they redesigned the whole thing. They weren't working in small workshops anymore, but in large factory floors and with a conveyor belt, and they redesigned the whole thing. And I think we are now at the point where we should think about, and we as leaders even more, we should think about how we can redesign all we do in sales. And is it really the right way we do it? And or could we better redesign it so the AI can unfold its full potential, and where we as humans are we are good at judging things, for instance, and directing things and orchestrating it. And so we can, from an above point of view, orchestrate the AI doing nearly everything else, but the points where you need human connection or trust or judgment.
I think you answered my next question was, where is the human going to be valuable? So you already answered that, where there is more need for human connection, and where the human has to be the orchestrator. And you believe that sellers will need to develop those two skills. I mean, not just other areas, but these are the two key skills that we need to build upon if you want to be more successful in this autonomous revenue world.
Yes, of course. And for sellers, it is very. I'm deeply convinced that the AI won't replace us in sales, us as humans, but it will change our role deeply, as I said. And I think the knowledge of a sales representative, for instance, of products or of services is less important, but more important is standing. I'm not talking about charisma, but standing, and the ability to understand the problems and the challenges of your customer. So the old question, where is your customer heading to, and what are their challenges, and where can I provide value? Where can we provide value? We have to be able to answer this question even clearer than before, and maybe on another level, where we before talked to a supply chain manager to make the deal or to make the contract. We should be able to talk on C-level around this question. This is challenging. I see this, but I think it's crucial to stay valuable and to provide this value to your company. And this is a point where we, as part of the organization, can grow all together. We can go to the next level in growth, in terms of growth, when we are able to handle this.
Okay, so to summarize a bit, this is, value-based selling becomes even more important in the age of agentic AI, because the AI can handle a lot of the heavy lifting, which used to happen in the back end, which required a human. The AI can also happen a lot of moving parts, preparing you. So your focus as a seller, or as the account manager, or whatever role you have customer facing, is only in developing the relationship and in establishing value. So those are the two things that are most key. On the back end, you have to orchestrate so that all the AI works for you and gives you what you need to present back to the customer or the prospect. Great. I think this gives uh, at least sellers a lot of hope that, hey, you have to learn new skills and you have to focus on really what matters most: the relationship, the value you deliver, and the everything else you need to learn to orchestrate with the AI doing the heavy lifting for you.
And Alok, this is also driven by the complexity. And we're talking about technical sales, for instance.
Mhm.
It's getting so complex that that we as humans are not able anymore to handle the complexity. Last year, I worked with the head of sales at Siemens, and he told me that he was responsible for 700,000 products, different products.
Ouch. Okay.
So if you want to handle the complexity and not only the sheer number, but in the software business, you have iterations, you have a lot of deployments every day. So the software you are selling is changing every day, and to keep up as a seller with all the new features or possibility of your product is nearly impossible. So you don't need the information advantage anymore facing your customer. But as you have the AI handling this part for you, but as you mentioned it, the relationship and the trust and the bigger idea of where your client is heading and where you can, as you said, provide the value. Yeah, value-based selling.
I agree. I think complexity is getting complex, right? We see that in what used to be simpler deals, even in the software business and in the services business, and especially as customers are forcing us to say, "Hey, what's the outcome I can expect, and what's your track record?" So it's getting, the number of possibilities is getting more exponentially. I would say. Excellent, excellent, great. So I want to sort of end. The last question is, again, the most basic one, that for somebody who's starting out, like a CEO or a CRO, who are just building out their AI native revenue organizations, uh, what's that one piece of advice that you would give them? And how, and I understand it has to be nuanced, because, see, everybody's worried about the runaway cost, right? Expensive experimentation without measurable outcome. So how should a CEO or CRO who's starting out, right, approach autonomous services? I mean, I could just say go and read Tim's books, right, and learn a lot from them.
Good starting point, yeah. No, but a very good question. You as a CRO or CEO or head of sales, you should start not treating AI as another tool, as another CRM systems, for instance, but to start thinking about how you can actually redesign your processes so that humans and AI agents can co-create the value. And I'm sure that this will be different. And you should start there as because if you keep on just adding tools, you will end with more frustrated sellers, and they have to handle more tools, and they have to handle more complexity, and it won't reduce the complexity for them and for your clients. And so start with your processes, start with your customers, and that is what I would start with, asking your customers, where is the actual pain point in doing business with me? So where can I make it easier for you as my customer to work with me? There, I would start with redesigning processes, and then, of course, checking where are my clients searching for solutions? Where can I, how can I deliver value for them easier and faster?
Great. So start from the outside in and redesign the process. Don't try to add a tool. Excellent. This is great advice. I think this has been one of my most valuable sessions. So thank you so much, Tim, for being
Thank
part
you.
of Pivot Point. I would encourage everybody to look up Tim's books. I am going to look up more than a few. Our pleasure to have you with us, and I hope our viewers will see the value that you have brought to many organizations globally. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much for having me, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you. So we will, for our viewers, we will continue exploring ideas and innovations that are shaping the future of AI in the enterprise, driving all aspects of the business. And I look forward to more conversations, maybe even a deeper conversation with you, Tim, around a specific topic as we hear from our viewers.
It'd be a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.